मेरे पहले स्टार्टअप का नाम secondshadi.com था। हंसिए मत, सच बोल रहा हूं मैं।
Good evening, ladies, and thank you so much for joining day 7 of this session. And all of those who joined, I can see how committed you are, on this particular whole aspect of self-reliance. And as people are joining in, okay, just session there with the music, we love you to see your moves there. Keep it going. Thank you, Ranjini, a lovely smile out there, looking great, and each one of you, it will be great to have your videos on. Be with the music and settle down as people are joining in, and then we move on to the actual topic. Yeah, so I want to see those moves. Can we just move it a little bit? Yes, so that we relax and get into the actual topic. Yes, thank you, Ranjini, and the rest of you. And as we're settling in down, take a deep breath and relax. And as you're getting into the topics, each of it seems so serious, but it's not. Okay, we should not sort of get these as easy because the more we take it as something really deep that we need to look at, it's going to get very difficult for us to work on it. We need to do it with that fun element. Yeah. So give me a 5 and please type fun. Please give me a 5, all of you there, and please type fun while we move into serious so-called concepts. Actually, it's really not serious, but maybe we're all trying to make it serious. So look at it, this is simple, and maybe because it's so simple, we hadn't tried to wonder how come it's so simple, right? So anyway, so let's move into the actual topic of the day. And let me just before I always put up my vision, and that's the reason why this whole challenge, the idea of challenge, also came up, because it has the word self-reliance or self-reliant, so to say, in it. And let me tell you, it's a secret that I'm sharing with you. I never even thought that I would take a session like this, but it was always in my mind that I had to do something around self-reliance. And this challenge, when I did more and more research around it, it's just sort of unfolding so many concepts that we need to understand to really get self-reliant. So give me a 5 and actually type, give me a 5 there, and actually type the definition of self-reliance out there in the chat, of whatever that you've understood till now. I keep saying it in every Inner Super Takat call. That's basically my weekly call in my community, of the definition of self-reliance, and people would have got really bored listening to it. But the more I say it, I actually get energized, because the whole definition of to be able to dash dash dash. Please, fill in the blanks. To be able to dash 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 actually energizes me. I'm really telling you, it's very, very close to my heart. And that's one of the reasons why I want to, really dwell into this concept in depth for each one of us to know and implement, being self-reliant. Okay. Success isn't trusting myself. This makes me self-reliant. Yeah. But the definition of self-reliant, Ranjini, and that's what I want us to know. I want us to type it in there. What I keep saying, and what I said on day 1, and what Ralph Waldo Emerson basically is. This basically comes from him, and it really intrigued me, as I told you from day 1, as to it makes so much of sense to be able to voice one's opinion irrespective of social norms, and that's why, if you look at each of these essays and the concepts that we are unraveling, is so much linked to how we need to be able to understand self, and also how others see us. And that actually moves into today's, topic of self-awareness, okay? How we see ourselves and how others see us. But having said that, this was yesterday's affirmation and this was yesterday's action assignment that we had to take. AA charge 6, which means we are 28% charge, 72% to go, and which is a great thing, right? Just say 72% to go, or rather 28% charge, just say 28%. Okay. And having said that, I want us to also unmute and say this affirmation aloud, because the concept of self-trust, day 1, day 2, the 3 days that I basically dwelled on this concept of self-trust, understanding what it is, people who are self-trusting, how they are, the 3 aspects of self-trust, and the 6 tips of building self-trust. So the 3 days that we talked about self-trust had this affirmation that we had to say every time, right? It's the same affirmation for all the 3 days if you look at it. So let's repeat that affirmation, or you can even type it, and it's better you repeat it aloud, because that's about the wiring, and that's what I also deal with in the various courses that I offer about the brain science and the brain wiring aspect of it, right? So let's affirm this once again, the self-trust aspect of it. The affirmation, I'm going to go 3, 2, 1. Okay, and we'll all say it aloud and also type it. Okay, whoever wants to type it can type it. I would expect you all to say it aloud. Okay, so there I go. 3, 2, 1. I grow and become a better version of myself every day. Beautiful. I want it louder. So 3, 2, 1. Let's say it again. I grow
and become a better version of myself every day.
Wonderful. And every one of you who's not unmuted, I would want you to please do this. It's a way of also becoming separate, because you need to express your thoughts socially also, right? So this is a way of doing it. Okay. And the assignment is learn from your mistake and believe that you will make a better choice next time and move on. This was the assignment that was given yesterday. And if there was any, see, these are very little and practical kind of assignments that have been given to you. If you face any kind of gaps and issues, just you can speak about it, and this is a great opportunity for you. The 30 minutes that we're talking about it, bring it out, we'll talk about it and move on. Yeah, wonderful. So with another 5 there, let me move on to the actual topic, which is about what is self-awareness. And you can see the definition there. Like I said, self-awareness is, if you look at the various, you can find, umpteen number of Google definitions, Google dictionary that is there about self-awareness. And it's, definitely involves being aware of different aspects of self, including traits, behaviors, feelings. I mean, being in human resources, having done the MBA in organization behavior and all of that, one of the things that keeps coming in our minds is skills, traits, behavior, and these kind of things. But maybe for sort of, a common man, you probably may not be thinking of self-awareness in terms of traits or skills or behaviors. You must be thinking, oh, maybe, what do you think? I mean, what comes into your mind when you actually are thinking of, when I actually put this word of self-awareness out there, what comes into your mind? Is there something, sort of a bulb on kind of thing that happens when I just say self-awareness? You can just unmute and say, or you can also, type it in there. So the thing that I'm trying to sort of focus out here is that it involves all these aspects, self, including traits, behaviors, and feelings. Okay. Having said that, there are various concepts that are coming around this. So some people say it is our ability to monitor our inner world. Some researchers, neuroscientists, positive psychologists, all of that put together, they say it's actually, let me just take it on recording. Yes, monitor our inner world. The few others, researchers and studies that say that it's like a temporary state of self-consciousness, like you're conscious of yourself, you're doing something, and that's temporary. And then you probably are not that conscious, right? But what is really important is the last part. And I really want to highlight the last part. And that's what we're going to dwell sort of deeper into. That is the difference between how we see ourselves and how others see us. In fact, I also do an assessment called a FIROB assessment, which is fundamental interpersonal relationship orientation. And it talks about three things: intuition, control, and affection. And it's really, of course, all these assessments are to understand ourselves. And it's really good, like, in terms of companionship and compatibility, whether you're in an office kind of a situation, or whether in a house situation, relationship, whatever it may be, or even if you're just trying to get married, you can find out what is the kind of person you really, the kind of person who you really be compatible with. So having said that, difference between how and there, why I'm talking about FIROB, fundamental interpersonal relationship orientation, is because there you're actually seeing yourself and also how others see us. Okay, what is wanted and what is expressed, how much of it is wanted and how much of it is expressed. So having said that, I want to actually ask this question to all of you. Is self-awareness a very rare quality? What do you all think? Yes, no, maybe. Is it a rare quality, or is it something that people know of, and it's not something that we need to really think about, or it's a normal thing? What comes into your mind? I mean, this is a question, and I would request you to answer. Is it a rare quality? Is self-awareness a rare quality? You can, yeah. So Nisha says rare, Ranjini says rare. Good, great. So absolutely. In fact, there's a whole HBR, Harvard Business Research done on this. The studies that show that it's actually found that it is a rare quality. People believe that they're extremely self-aware. Anyone whom you ask, you say, yeah, of course I know. Don't you think I know? Of course I know this. So that means they're basically claiming that they know everything. But it's found that even the most of the people believe they're self-aware. Self-awareness is actually truly a rare quality, and only 10 to 15% of the people actually fit the criteria. Imagine only 10 to 15% of the people. So, when I used to be working in these corporates, we used to have the top, of course, 5%, but sometimes it would go up to 10% in the larger, whatever, 70% and the bottom 5% kind of a thing. So it's almost like it's only the top sort of 10% people. So, you have this bell curve and you do a lot of fitment around that in terms of performance appraisals and all that. But which goes to say that seems to be that only those top, it may not be those top, and that's what we're going to get into. The top 10 to 15% need not necessarily be those top performers, by the way. And self-awareness doesn't necessarily mean that only those top performers are self-aware. Okay, that is also a very beautiful thing we need to understand. It is that generally, when studies were done over 5,000 odd people, I mean, different whatever cultures, and when the studies was done, this is what had come out. Okay. Having said that, there are three ways of sort of building self-awareness, because it's very it's not available as much. We can start getting aware of it by understanding these three main broad sort of concepts. And what are those? So what do we need to understand is, one, the types, two is about experience and power, and three is introspection. Are these three things I mean, types, of course, you will understand. It will give you an understanding of what are the types that are there and how can we deal with it. Experience and power and introspection, because generally speaking, what is said is for you to get self-aware, you need to introspect, you need to look within. All right, that's of course all right, but there are actually certain things around each of these things. If we understand it better, we will know, we will start in the journey of, getting self-aware. Probably the percentage of population will increase from 15 to 20%, right? So let's look at that. So the first thing is, there are two types of self-aware. When you're talking about types, right, there are two types of self-awareness. And, when as really trying to understand this. There is something called internal self-awareness and there is something called external self-awareness. And as I started off talking about self-awareness and the definition of it, how much do you understand yourself and how much, the second category is external self-awareness, means understanding how other people view us. How many of us knew that in self-awareness, even this category comes into picture? Did we? Yes, no, maybe? See, generally, right, Anusha? So generally what we think is self-awareness is only knowing about ourselves. And in fact, what the studies have found, it's that it is associated, in fact, self-awareness is associated if we have both of this, and I'll get into, there's a whole metrics in this, okay? And if we have both of this, and generally speaking, it is understood that one has to be high, the other has to be low. If you put it in a matrix, there is a feeling that both of it has to be high. There is nothing like that. The studies have shown that if a person is generally more self-aware, it leads to higher job satisfaction, higher relationship satisfaction, leading to further happiness in life. And these are what are the conclusions of the study. And the negative aspects, I mean, if you're not as self-aware, there is more anxiety, there is more stress, there is more depression, may lead to, depression, of course, is a very extreme terminology to use, but finally it leads to that is the kind of thing. Okay, so here what we, so what I'm saying is, if we know it, if we are in this bracket of it, in that 10-15%, that means we have high job and relationship satisfaction, there's happiness. And if we don't, then there is anxiety, stress, and depression. Now, this is in fact a whole sort of, if you look at the 4 self-awareness archetypes, okay, there is so much of research done around this. And this beautifully actually tells us that if you look at this matrix, it says that we have to be high on both, then we are good, right? Which means high external self-awareness and high internal self-awareness, which is not the case. Basically, when the researchers summed it up, trying to understand this whole, the people, how they behave, their values, all of that, right? Their experience and influences and everything. What was coming out is that one needs to have a balance of the two. It's, as usual, the word balance comes into picture. Okay, so I am not going to be going in depth into each of these, because who are introspectors, aware, pleasers, seekers, that's there, you can have a look at it. If you get into my courses, I'll actually, I mean, if you take the decision of joining my community and my courses, I'll actually make you do a quiz on this, and you can then understand where you stand in the self-awareness, in the 21-day challenge, in terms of giving it more structure, right? The second aspect is experience and power hinder self-awareness. Just imagine this, we all the time say that if we are more experienced, we are more self-aware. And I have, faced this in every organization that I went. Initially, when you go there as a newcomer, the people who are more experienced there and say, you just joined yesterday. How do you don't even know this, right? I mean, how can you even comment on this? That's the kind of message, or even if you express certain things, when you're very sort of young in the organization, there could be these kind of comments with people who are highly experienced. So what's coming out of experience there, it can be actually a hindrance to self-awareness. We see it sometimes with our own parents. I mean, while they're all older and hopefully wiser, there are certain things they say which may not make sense to children. And my own child, for example, my child might give me feedback saying, hey, you're just doing this too much, you're not even seeing what it is, because we just keep saying we know this. And when we say we know this, there is this whole thing of false kind of confidence. And we are also sometimes may seem overconfident. And it especially happens with people who are over experienced. I mean, or so to say, experienced in whatever, like, in organizations, I have faced this wherever we went, and you might face this too. So the whole point is, this people start making assumptions. When you're experienced, say, I know this, you don't know, and therefore you start assuming. So that's where it's not making you look at the thing the way it is, right? So that's where the balance again comes into picture of being internally self-aware and externally self-aware. If you for once look at the feedback that your daughter or your son is giving you, or sometimes even husband, I mean, husband, we are never ever, or boyfriend, we never ever look at it, probably they're making sense. It's very difficult to take a step back and look at that feedback, right? So, because only 10 to 15% of people are actually, of people are actually self-aware. Let's remember this, because I don't know if you're all in that category. We are all in that category. We need to keep that in mind, because there's research saying to support that most of the people are not self-aware. They only claim that they are self-aware. Okay, so having said this is the third one. So false confidence, assumptions, and when there was, especially when people were actually studied at the leadership level, they were out of 19 out of 20 competencies, which is knowledge and skills. Competencies is a combination of knowledge and skills. 19 out of 20 knowledge and skills combinations actually said that they were not as much as aware. They only made assumptions, on various aspects. Like the competencies were something like emotional self-awareness, accurate self-assessment, empathy. As you grow up the ladder, one of the things nowadays especially is looked at as empathy. Leaders as coaches, how, and especially after COVID, this is a huge, the other day I was talking to an IT corporate where they were asking me to do a training program. And one of the things that they're coming up saying, empathy. People have become less empathetic because they're working from home and they're not really realizing how much we go through and things like that, right? So trustworthiness, all this actually was measured as low, for people who had higher experience, is what I'm saying. Around 3,600 leaders across a variety of roles and industries found that this relative to lower level leaders, higher level leaders more significantly overvalued their skills. Okay, so this actually comes under the power part of it. See, in power, there is overvaluation of skills. In experience, it is just overconfidence or false confidence. When you're in a state of power, there is a feeling that I am better, or you overvalue the skills that you have. There's just, and that's where 19 out of 20 competencies that were marked. The higher guys actually had lesser when measured. Okay. So please don't take this as a point and quote it everywhere, saying, Preeta in one of her sessions said that higher people are, so you are, you go and tell your manager who are saying, I know you are not as self-aware. I know you won't do that, but this is research. You can use it to actually look at yourself, not point out at others, but look at yourself and see how you can be either come into the 10 to 15% bracket. I mean, I'm not saying you're not, probably you are. I mean, we can reflect and see where we are and slowly move there. Okay. So the third very beautiful and interesting thing is about introspection. And, I was, this is something that has always been told to us that, I feel my daughter is very self-aware. She's 17-year-old. And the kind of answers that she gives at times, she says, I always feel I was not as mature as she is in her age. And one of the things that I see her do is in self-introspect. Probably she has learned it from whoever, I mean, my husband or me, more my husband maybe, as a person. But overall, what I'm trying to say here is a problem. There is a problem with introspection. And especially from a point of view of self-awareness. Most people are doing it incorrectly, in the sense that there are questions that you ask which are more why related as opposed to what. And there is a lot of research around, this particular, the continued research which I'm talking about, on the three components of understanding how to become more self-aware. In that itself, this has come out saying, you know, when we because when we do a self-introspection, how many of us actually ask why questions? Why am I like this? Why is this happened? Uh, why couldn't I do this properly? What? How many of us ask what questions as opposed to why questions? And the thing is, there is a tendency for us to ask why questions when we introspect, and the why questions are, generally it is the thing is we are when we are saying, if you go with the percentage of people who are self-aware, if you look at the 10 to 15%, the why questions, we are not able to sort of objectively evaluate us because we are not as very conscious about our values, moods, motivations. We are not as conscious of it as we need to be. We are very unconscious of that, and with the result, what we evaluate on the why may be wrong. So because whatever comes into our mind, you start evaluating it, and it may go wrong. And it's not only how wrong, it is also about how confident. Okay, so you are, one is there are certain there is a baggage, there is an emotional baggage, there is all that is there in you, and you decide that why this particular thing is not okay, based on whatever you have gathered all these years, which is emotional baggage, the thoughts, the actions that you've taken, and there's a pattern that you see, and you evaluate, and that evaluation may be wrong, and you also may not be as confident of what's going on. I mean, so there is a level of diffidence in your evaluation process. And so when for example, in an organization, if a particular person, if a manager is evaluating an individual, and the person has got a bad rating, uh, instead of saying why did I get a bad rating, the when the person asks why have I got a bad rating, the person might focus on all the negative kind of thoughts that might emerge around why, which is most around insecurities, around fears, around and it's not like sort of situation based, and it's not as objective. So that's the reason why we need to move. This is actually a case study, and I don't want to dwell too much into the case study, but the thing that came out of the case study is, in wise, it is more like how long, how confident. The confidence levels also are questionable. How long are we? Is we don't know. Like, it could be wrong, and mostly it turns out to be with whatever we have, gathered. And there is a tendency of ruminating with the negative thoughts in terms of emotions, anxiety, fears, insecurities when we're doing a why. But what kind of questions actually help us stay objective? And that's where this whole introspection aspect comes into place. Introspection doesn't always improve self-awareness, because it's why we do, and there are very few people who move from, who ask, who start ask, I mean, who ask what questions, okay? So instead of saying, why the hell did I do this? What was the situation? And how can you change the why to what? Like, what questions, for example, what are the situations that make me feel, instead of saying, I feel terrible, it's like really beating yourself down. What are the situations that makes me feel terrible? These are some ways of sort of taking care of the self-awareness. Today, what I'm also going to do is, I'm also going to tell you a little bit of some of my courses that I have, which I offer. Apart from this, it will be a quick thing before we do the affirmation. Okay, this is today's affirmation is, I constantly feel self-aware and confident in my abilities. And think of what made you what you are rather than why, because this is what we need to do. And I want to quickly tell you some of the courses that I offer, which basically are the silver, the gold. I have something, a 14-day alter ego journey that is there. And the silver and the gold level is Women's Independence Blueprint and Women's Independence Challenge. And this is more to do with brain science, accumulating brain science knowledge on various topics. And the 14-day alter ego journey is about how to use a technique called alter ego to call that ultimate self of yours, to relieve the pressure of you and actually, acquire your goals and dreams and desires. And you know what? The diamond level, which is my align your brain coaching, is the one-to-one coaching that I do, which is a 12 sessions coachings, which is for a year, like so almost like a membership into a community that you get into, where you have support of people there. There are a lot of there are a lot of things that I do there. I'm not getting into the details, but I want to really tell you that if you get into my align your brain coaching, which is like a 1-year thing, 1 session per year, you get the one in the left for free, which is the Women's Independence Blueprint and the 14-day journey. And I'm actually offering it like for 49,999 for 6 sessions, which is like a 16% discount, which is like you can pay 20,000 and sort of book this kind of a thing. So this is like for 6 sessions, that which is because it's going to be a 1-year membership, because you're having 1 session per month, and that will be a one-to-one support where you will have your goals, personal and professional goals made. Okay, and we will go step by step achieving those goals from session 1, strategies, actions, how to reach your goals, personal, professional goals. And with the help of the courses that are there online, it will actually help you reach those goals better, because the alter ego journey is about how to play the roles really well in the goals, for whatever goals that you have made for yourself. How are you going to play those roles within those goals to reach your dreams and desires? Okay, so this is what is the alter ego journey, which is a course which is equal to 25,000. I have actually done this course in Infosys during Women's Day, and it was a tour, like the 14-day. The first 3 days is what I did, and then they called me for the remaining 4, 5, 6, 7, course. And it's a major hit in terms of understanding what is alter ego, the execution, and the sustenance thing. There are few people here in the community who have joined, who are already a part of it, like Anusha, Ranjini, and few others. I would really urge you to join me. I'm willing to provide as much value, and the thing is, you will get all the self-reliance videos with the structured process. So what I'm planning to do is every video, there will be a structure and a detailed sort of a framework for you to implement whatever I'm teaching, which is like for 21 days. This is just the video. You can go look at the video on the YouTube, but when you come back and you implement it, so level 1 and level 2 are all courses online, but they're with a lot of individual support, weekly calls that you get in level 1, and in level 2 you get it's full of courses, challenges that are there. Brain 6 Insights of the Brain, 21-day challenge, and a lot of framework around it. Okay, so having said that, what I'm saying is this one, that is the Get Your Brain Fit offer, and these two are actually coming for free for you if you take the sessions, if you take the 6 sessions one-to-one coaching process, which I'll be offering, and I'm giving you a free consultation on this for you to understand what goes into this. You can contact me, and 30 minutes of a free consultation to understand what goes into the one-to-one coaching process. How do we set the goals? All the questions and clarifications you have, you can clarify in that, in the 30 minutes one-to-one consultation on what are all this, and then you can take the decision. In that consultation session, you can book for the with 20,000 as a for the next, so that it's booked for the 6 sessions. So per month, I'm trying to take 2 to 3 people as one-to-one, because one-to-one requires more effort, and it is 1.5 hours. Every session is 1.5 hours. Okay, so for 1.5 hours for 6 months. And it's actually like a membership that you have for 12 months. So it's actually a 12 session process. Okay, so 1.5 hours for 6 months. This is what is the cost, 1.5 hours for 6 months. Okay, it's actually 1,20,000, but I'm offering it for just 1 lakh, which is so split into 2, 6 sessions and 6 sessions. Okay, so you can contact me, ladies, whoever is interested in this, in sort of doing a free consultation, half-an-hour consultation, and we'll take it from there. Having said that, let me actually tell you what is the last part of this, which is the affirmation, that is AA chart 7. And I love the quote of Ralph Waldo Emerson: to be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment. It's very, very, very tough for us to be ourselves in this world. That's why this definition of Ralph, of being able to voice one's opinion irrespective of social norms, is very much to do with how much can we be ourselves, though there is society that is there. How much can we still be ourselves? If to be ourselves in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment. Okay? So having said that, I would ask us to affirm on 7, okay, and AA chart 7, that is affirmation assignment chart 7. And so let's read the affirmation aloud. I constantly feel self-aware and confident in my abilities. So I'll go 3, 2, 1, and let's do the affirmation on this. I constantly feel self-aware and confident in my abilities. Okay, here I go. 3, 2, 1.
I constantly feel self-aware and confident in my abilities.
Beautiful. So I want all of you to do a chorus on this, whoever is there in the call, and we'll do it 2 more times, and then look at the assignment and think of what made you what you are rather than why. Think of what rather than why. That's the assignment, because our tendency is to always think of why, and the whys may not give you the exact assessment or evaluation of what you are, because maybe you don't know, maybe you've gathered certain things with sort of emotional baggage, influences, patterns, and you think it is right. So it is better to ask what questions rather than why questions. And this, when the survey was done on people who asked what questions, they seem to be much more happier and much more self-aware. They are in the 10-15% category of people who are actually self-aware, rather than the entire population who feels who are self-aware and actually are not. Okay, so let's do 2 more times, and I then call it a day. There you go. 3, 2, 1. Let's go.
I constantly feel self-aware and confident in my abilities.
Beautiful. Anusha, go ahead. Don't have to stop yourself. I constantly feel self-aware and confident in my abilities. Wonderful. And the assignment is think of what made you what you are rather than why. So wonderful, ladies. So tomorrow's topic is going to be on self-acceptance. Okay, I will so be there at 5 p.m. and let's rock it. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Sita.